and look forward to talking with you. Did you know you can make a payment, get ID cards?
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just a minute.
I had intimidation on asking people. I can't tell you how many times I was intimidated to do steps here. And that's why, right, but that's, oops.
All right. 1 minute and we will do this. There's Amber. I see you, Amber.
I'm here.
Is our friend Amy Ruby here?
Oh,
look, it's Lisa Husseini. Lisa. It's so nice to see you.
I feel like I'm freezing, but it's nice to see you.
All right. As we're waiting for everyone to hop on, I am going to make Amy Ruby, who is also the director of the CFJ Coaching Success School, I'm going to make her the co-host. So Amy, I don't know if I don't see you yet.
I don't know that she's here yet. I'm here. Oh. I'm here. Do you see?
All right. Is that under Amy?
I'm saying Amy. There we go.
So I'm going to make you the co-host, okay?
Okay.
Let me know if I did it right.
You did it.
All right.
Good job.
Excellent. We're here, everybody. Welcome. I want to let you know I'm going to make a change in the title right now. I have decided that serving yourself and others is really the title. Uncertainty is kind of just part of the world, and it always has been. And so now everyone is just way more aware of the reality that life is often uncertain, sometimes more than others, sometimes less than others, but it's just part of the human experience, uncertainty. Even if we try to make it feel like it's not. It just is. So welcome, everybody, to serving yourself and others. And let's do this. Let's just take a moment.
Wait. We can't hear Carolyn.
You can't hear me?
There you go.
I muted you on accident. I muted everyone.
Oh.
I did that as the host, but it did. Sorry.
Thank you for unmuting me. And the other person you're hearing, everybody, that is the fantastic Amber Krzys. She is the other lead faculty at the CFJ Coaching Success School, and she is here with us as well. So let's everybody just take a moment and close our eyelids and just come together. And we're just going to ask just now that everybody who's participating and anybody who's not here but who will be watching the recording, we're just going to ask that we all center ourselves in our heart. And we just take a moment to breathe in and to breathe out. And in the silence, just for a moment, you can set your intention. You can send loving on and around the planet to anyone or anything who's in need. And you can also take a moment to extend gratitude to yourself for being here and really for being in this fantastic profession. And take one more breath and come back. And you can open your eyelids. So welcome, everybody. It's so fun. I see lots of people that I know, some that I don't know, but a lot of familiar names and faces. So I acknowledge you for making time during the pandemic to do something like this, because by now we're all kind of perhaps more exhausted by the options that are being put before us that we can take advantage of. Maybe you're not exhausted, but maybe you feel like, gosh, there's so many things to choose from. What will really serve me? So I acknowledge you for being here today. And I'm going to talk for a few minutes just about where we're at, right? The first time we all gathered, which was part one, was kind of right at the beginning, right? And there was sort of a combination of excitement and disturbance and all sorts of things happening in the world. Now we're on kind of an even keel of disturbance, and maybe like the virus, there's spikes in disturbance, right? And then for some people, they're flattening their curve, right? They're not as disturbed, but they're kind of moving into, maybe I want to make something of this time. Or maybe they're in like, I don't care anymore. I'm not making anything of this time. Like I'm just getting through. And what we're here to talk about today is the profession of coaching at this time. And I'm going to say something which I wrote to everybody about, and maybe it'll seem radical to you, but maybe not. Maybe that's why you're here. The profession of coaching is essentially pandemic proof. It's pandemic proof. Not because it's pandemic proof because it's pandemic. It's always something that can serve people. Whether we're in a really big, challenging global circumstance, or whether one individual is wanting to make an important change, right? So coaching is in and of itself pandemic proof, regardless of your thoughts. Like we can talk about that if someone wants coaching on it. Like, I don't believe you, Carolyn, you're wrong. Like we can have that conversation. And if you're in that story and you want assistance, then let's do it. And I want to offer that, if you're going to put yourself up and raise your hand, just know that like with anything, it's really about how you're relating to it. It's never the thing. It's always how you're relating to the thing. Always. So it's not like you're going to present me or Amber with any evidence that proves that there's no way to like be an effective and productive coach during a pandemic. And we want you all, right? I want you all to have a sense of possibility and freedom and ways to stand forward right now. I wrote about this in the first email I sent, and I love this. Devin Bandison, who's a coach who teaches at my school, and he is a fantastic coach. He really put on the table for the coaches, like, we're essential workers. We're essential workers. And I got emails back when I sent that from people who were like, I have never thought of myself like that. I was not thinking of myself as an essential worker. Wow. And so I want to invite us all into that space as we work together today, that we really, if you're willing to 5% more behave like an essential worker, because the reality is that's what you want to be doing when it's not a pandemic, right? It's not like we're more essential during a pandemic. We want to behave like essential workers, pandemic or no pandemic. So Amber, do you want to say anything else about that?
Sure. First of all, I just want to say hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I mean, just again, I want to echo what Carolyn shared. There's so many options right now for virtual anything. And the fact that you chose this, I think it's really just a beautiful gift to give yourself. And our intention is obviously to serve you like crazy today. And I love what Carolyn is sharing here, because it can be so easy to fall victim to our own thinking around, no one's going to hire me right now. People are struggling right now. Who am I to stand forward right now? And our message, with many more that you'll hear today, is really don't believe that voice, because there are people out there who need what you have. I think about, I just shared this in the Facebook group for the school. John Krasinski has created Some Good News, the Some Good News Network, right? And that has come out of what he saw as a need, right? And then he used his own imagination, his own creativity to produce something that can really serve people, right? He's expressing his own unique gifts, and he's a model for all of us, right? We all have unique gifts to be sharing at this time. And the fact that you're a coach, that tells me you have a unique gift of connecting, of listening, of helping someone open up themselves inside to look at things differently. I just feel like if it now more than ever is a great primer for that activity for you to be using.
Great. Thank you, Amber.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to open it up in a minute to anybody who wants coaching on what's happening for them in their world right now. And I want to preface this also with saying that this is the one thing we know, that businesses don't grow when we're dark. They don't grow when we're not connecting. They don't grow when we're not serving people. They don't. So one question to ask yourself as people are getting coached is to say, like, how's my calendar been looking lately? You know, am I spending time reaching out to people, connecting? Am I spending time sending people resources? Am I a trusted source of transformation for the people that I'm connected to? Am I behaving like a trusted source of transformation? That's a question, right? And so we're going to open it up. Like, let's hear from you guys. We want to maximize the time we have together. So if you have a question, just raise the hand symbol, and then we'll get moving on some live coaching.
If you don't, I think it would be hard to imagine that you don't know how to raise your hand on Zoom at this point. And if you don't, if you click the bottom where it says participants, it'll pull up a screen on the right-hand side. You scroll all the way down and you'll see a little button that says raise hand, and you can click that. And then that'll put you in the queue for asking a question or sharing.
So while that's happening, I want to just share about the chat room while we're together. So while we're together, okay, my request is going to be, it's fine if you want to post a question in the chat, that's totally fine, or an additional question based on what someone is asking. What we're going to ask though is that we don't use the chat to like, that's amazing, and oh, I feel you, and because it gets distracting, not just for me because I want to serve you fully, but it gets distracting even for the participants because your attention gets split. And as we all know, we live in a world now of split attention, right? My daughter, who's 12, is like multiple devices. It's like, no, let's not do that. So this is a question. So Natasha, I see your question. Are you a trusted source of transformation? That's really our job, right? And we don't become trusted sources of transformation right out of the gate. Hello, I'm your trusted source of transformation. That takes relationship building, right? That takes time. That is like slowly over time, right? You know, one of my favorite stories that Amber shares is how Michelle Bauman, who passed away over 4 years ago, she was my business partner. She nurtured Amber and the relationship over time. And I think it was 2 years.
Yeah.
And she sent, like, share a little bit about that, Amber, because I think it's helpful.
Yeah. So I had known Michelle through a community that we're a part of through the University of Santa Monica. And she was always so like smiley and friendly. And I knew she was a coach, but I didn't really know much about her practice or her, like, I was all like caught up in my own world, my own, like, I got to make money world. And I was really pursuing the online path at that time. Unsuccessfully, I will add. And I think one day we saw each other at school on a break or just in passing. And, she asked me how I was doing and I was honest with her. And she was like, well, do you want to talk? We could set up some time to talk more. And I think I thought, like, really? Like, she wants to sit with me for what? Okay, sure. I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea that this was part of like an enrollment process. And let me clarify that. It wasn't like she was being manipulative, like, I will now get you to be my client if you come sit with me. She genuinely liked me and wanted to serve me. And so I sat there and I experienced her coaching, and she gave me some ideas on things that I could implement. And I bawled my eyes out, and I was like, I can't afford you. I have $25,000 in credit card debt. And she's like, that's fine. She sent me on my way. She sent me a couple of books. And through implementing one of the things that she talked about, I actually made money within like a week after my conversation with her. So I wrote her to be like, oh my God, I made $600, and which was astounding to me at that time. And she, again, was very gracious and celebratory, and suggested a different way of working together, and I just wasn't there. And then I would say over a period of 2 years, not like it wasn't like every 2 months I will reach out to Amber, right? She was on my mailing list because at that time I was sending emails regularly. Every now and then she would respond to be like, wow, this was so great, or this part of this, or do you see what a great writer you are? Like genuine, authentic. She signed up for a program that I led. It was a 10-day program that I offered called like the Jumpstart program or something. I think it was like $80. And she signed up for that, which also felt a little bit like, oh God, I better show up in this group because Michelle's here. And, and she later shared with me, she was like, I was checking you out. Like I was seeing like, what kind of coaching is she offering? And she was like, oh, she's the real deal. And then over time, this is my favorite story about Michelle. I had quit my part-time job. It was a very big risk for me. I had quit my part-time job. I had hired a different coach, an online coach that I was working with, and I was launching a program, and I wanted 12 people in that program. I had 7 people enrolled through the online way, but I still had 5 people that I really wanted. And it was a Thursday, and the program started on a Monday. And I emailed Michelle and I said, hey, I know you have a lot of women in your community. Would there be anyone that you can think of that would benefit from this? And she said, call me, I'll help you get your 5 people. So I spent 40 minutes on the phone with her. I had not paid her a dime. And she basically talked me through the process of who do you want? She helped me craft an invitation to that person. She said, these are how you lead the calls. Over that weekend, I talked to people on the phone. I had never done that before. I utilized the coaching that she gave me. I had my 12 by Monday morning. So I got my 5 people. At that moment, I was like, where do I send the money? Like, how do I keep working with you? And that's because she continued to serve me and nurture that relationship over a period of time. Like she helped me see the value in what she was offering.
Love that, Amber. And I was thinking as you were sharing, I'm like, Michelle made herself essential.
Yeah, she really did.
She made herself essential. Now I want to translate this for everyone, right? Because this is not like Michelle was a coach who was nurturing a coach. And some of you are like, I don't want to work with coaches. And I'm like, I don't blame you because we're tricky. But you're working with other kinds of people. And it's like, well, how do I become essential to other kinds of people? And the way we become essential is we reach out, we ask, how are you doing in a real way? Often coaches jump too fast. We have sort of like, I want to talk to you. And we don't slow down and nurture the relationship in an email. We don't slow down and do things without people feel our agendas. That's one of the biggest challenges for professional coaches. They feel it. We leak our agenda into our communications, both consciously and unconsciously. We do that with our words. We do that with self-interest. Like our emails, I can't tell you how many emails Amber and I have looked at, both from coaches in the school and when we do our webinar that's all about emails, essentially, how much coaches make their emails about themselves and not about the person. That they're all about like I, me, my, versus you, your, one of the most important things we can do right now with people is just write to them and say, how's it going where you are? How's it going? That's a lot. That's serving. If it's genuine, not if it's you're sitting over in your house. Ooh, I hope this gets me some money. That's not genuine, right? We really have to drop our money concerns and feelings and see like, what does serving really mean? What does it really mean? So I'm a little shocked There is not one hand up. Am I crazy, Amber? Am I Amy? Am I missing something? I'm like,
You could also just raise your hand here if you have something.
yeah.
that you'd
I'm like, wow.
or have something going on in your practice.
You.
Laura Siegel is
Laura
up.
Siegel. And then we'll go to John Trethaway. Thank you. Like, way to go.
Kick us off.
Hi, you guys. I'm so nervous to talk to you. I want to say that. I'm like, oh shit, am I going to ask a question? Thank you for doing this. First of all, I'm really grateful. I have a question I have two questions. My first question is the whole leaking thing. So I have not really been that much in people's worlds for a while. And I have been doing some reaching since the last webinar, your last webinar. I started just like very gently kind of reaching out. And now I'm putting together a webinar, and I feel like I'm all of a sudden like thrusting. It's weird. Like, it just feels weird because I'm sort of like in that space of like, this is a free thing. I want to offer it. I want to be brave. I want to be bold and share it. And also, like, I'm reaching out to people I haven't talked to in years, or people who just like have never heard from me. And that feels strange and awkward. But I keep kind of holding that guidance inside that I hear from you so often, and you shared last time, Carolyn, about on our last webinar about am I willing to risk offending in the name of serving? And anyway, I'm just at this I wonder if you have thoughts about that, about like you know, I'm reaching out to people I've never reached out before, and it's literally like, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's, how are you? I'm doing this thing. Do you want to come? And I feel, oh, it feels so weird.
What's the responses like?
Some people have not responded at all. I mean, people I've been in touch with are responding, and for the most part. But I have like a new community I'm sort of testing.
Yeah.
A new group of people I'm sort of testing, and they have not responded at all. And I'm like, oh God, you know, I'm feeling like, am I screwing this up? Because I've had a primarily more of a social relationship with this group.
So can we slow that down? The I'm screwing it up.
Yeah.
Do you want the short? You want the short answer, the medium answer, or the longer answer?
Oh, I want it all, Carolyn.
No, you're not screwing it up. I mean, really, the only way to screw it up is to keep all that magical coaching skills you have to yourself. That's the only way to screw it up, is that you keep those things to yourself and you only give them to your daughter, your husband, and your friends. That's the only way you can screw this up. And then the longer answer is, like, you're in that space that, you know, you've heard us talk about, like, that's like you're converting more social relationships. You're kind of bridging into, hey, and I also have this professional service I do.
Right.
So I wouldn't take the not answering to mean anything other than you need to just connect with them again and go, hey, did you get this? Totally fine if you don't want to come.
Yeah.
And I still want to know how you are.
Yeah. Okay.
And I still want to know how you're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
Laura, one of the gifts you have is you really are an extraordinary writer. Like, extraordinary. Like I, you know, Laura, for everyone, so that everyone knows, Laura participated early on in the women's groups, the coaching groups that Michelle and I did. So I've known Laura a long time. And Michelle and I, like, she would email us with questions just about whatever was happening. And it wasn't a group for coaches, it was just a group for women. And she would send us these emails that were like, and we'd be like, did you see that she wrote? Like, we would save her emails because they were so just remarkable in their hilarity, in their tenderness, I mean, she's really, so to me, Laura, anybody who gets an email from you is getting a gift. And if you go back to them, they feel you when you write, right? Because you write with such caring. So my point of view is, you get to decide, am I going to abandon, like, letting my small self, my social self, who was raised to be very polite and be like, no, that's not going to serve here. That's not going to serve here. That's not going to serve people in a pandemic. And just so everybody knows, in a pandemic, us like being like, ooh, I want to be polite. And did I bother someone because I emailed them? We all know you probably haven't bothered them more than the virus bothers people. Right? Like, let's be clear. That's a bigger bother than us sending emails like, how are you? I'm doing this webinar on grace. And if you want to come, it'd be so fun to see you again.
You can also speak to, Laura, in your email when you're writing, you know, I know we know each other more socially, or I know we haven't talked in a long time. Like, you can speak the thing that's like,
Right.
oh God, they're going to think, why am I hearing from her?
Right.
Right? You can say that, you could say, and I'm thinking of you because I'm leading something
Yeah.
that could serve you.
That's super helpful. I love, thank you, Amber, of just like saying the thing. And also I love Carolyn about, yeah, like about going back and saying, like, I still want to know how you are. Even if you don't attend, even if I don't hear from you, that feels more like it feels like a more complete cycle inside of me, because it feels awkward to just be like, well, okay, guess we'll try again in 6 months or whatever.
Right. No. In fact, because you're connecting with them for the first time, this is the beginning.
You're right.
So you don't want to go dark.
Right. Okay.
We don't, all of us, just so everybody knows, if you reach out to someone and they're still quiet, that doesn't mean, oh, go away, must go away. It means, no, I need to, like, because we don't know, right? You have no idea with some of these people, what they're dealing with, right?
Sure.
We don't know. They could have someone in their family who's dealing with the virus. We just don't know. And what we tend to do as humans is we make it about us, right? We're like, oh, they didn't like my email, or they think this, versus like maybe they're just, you know, not looking at email anymore, and they're curled in a ball in their house in their pajamas eating chocolate chip cookies.
Right. Were you at my house last night? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I want to see, like, to me, Laura, this is all fabulous news. And I hope everyone hears this. It's like, if you're in the place of, I think for you, Laura, you haven't done anything like this before, right?
Right.
It's like, this is an incredible time to be like the bar is low.
Yeah.
Right? The bar is low. We're all not, there's so many people just sitting around. And given the Zoom world, the bar is low in terms of knowing how to use it. The bar is low in terms of, like, everyone is so forgiving right now. That will go away.
Yeah.
But for right now, everybody's like, this is good. Who cares if they're in their pajamas or your child came in? Who cares? We're all in this together.
Right. Okay. That's so helpful. Thank you both so much. And thank you for doing.
And you said you had 2 questions.
Well, the other one, Carolyn, is more of like a practical question, because this is selfish on my part, and but I'm curious because I haven't seen anything about whether or not you guys are going to do a coaching school next year in 2021. So I didn't know if you've decided yet, or if you have plans for that, or.
Yeah. I'm happy to answer that. I've gotten an email about that, and I'll answer it so everyone knows, and then we'll move on, right? Because I'm here to make sure you guys get your needs met. We are doing a school in 2021. The dates are on the website. Okay. It is happening. I'll make a bigger announcement. I appreciate that, Laura, on Facebook. So we're open for business, right? Coaching doesn't go dark. We don't go dark. And we're going to have a new option, just so everybody knows. For people who are out of state or out of the country, because we don't know even by January what travel will be like, if someone's personal discomfort, there will be an option to participate virtually if you're out of state or out of the country. We're fans of live because so much can happen live, but the truth is, what the school teaches, you can get virtually. You can grow your business. Look, we have coaches, we've been meeting with them virtually now for, 2.5 months. I'll say this and then we'll move on. We just looked at their reports because coaches do reports every month. This month was the 2nd biggest billings month. What does that tell us? And that's not because these coaches are all really seasoned and big time coaches. They're not. They're some new, some middle, some a little further. They're just working. They're showing up for work. They're doing stuff, just like you, Laura. They're like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to put this out there. We have a coach in the school who offered his first webinar, his first one, and he decided, I'm going to see if I can create a group. And he decided, I'm going to do a group for couples, because his whole thing is love in lockdown, love in the time of lockdown, which I loved, right? Isn't that a great title?
Totally.
And he's doing a group, and he's already enrolled, I think, 3 or 4 people. Never done it before, ever. He's never done it. So Laura, if he can do it, you can do it.
Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that.
Right?
Yeah, guys, so much. I really thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
I just want to clarify one thing from that last round of coaching that Carolyn was doing with Laura, as far as the reaching out. They were talking about a complimentary event. If you're offering something paid, it would be different.
Of course.
I just want to clarify.
Thank you.
that.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, John Trethaway.
Hey, Carolyn and Amber.
Hey.
How's it going? So I got a question on, without using social media, what have you found helpful or useful in making new connections? Like, I'm so used to being out and just meeting people and doing that whole thing. And I kind of use social media, but I'm just not that into it, frankly. Or in the meanwhile, I've just been nurturing, reconnecting with all the people I know. And I mean, it will open up momentarily. So is there anything that you thought you'd have?
John, I think you're accurate until things open up more fully, right? And they will, but I think that even as things open up, people are not probably going to be rushing out. Some will and some won't. So to me, for you, it's like definitely using, like you already have a community, right? Of people you know. You can reach out to them by email, right? We can take really, like you could spend 2 hours and be like, I'm going to send a really thoughtful connecting email to everybody I know on my email list. Everybody. I mean, that would be an amazing thing for a coach to do right now. Right? I'm going to send an email. It's going to be thoughtful. It's going to be like, how are you doing right now? I've been thinking about you. And I like to get really personal, right? If I know someone, I want to be like, Amber, listen, how's it going? Like with the dogs in the house 24/7. What's that like right now? Like I wanted them to know, hey, I remember stuff about you, right? So there's no requirement for social media. I mean, I know coaches right now who still are not on social media, and they're doing work. So it's not a requirement. You don't have to. I think it's really up to the coach. You can nurture relationships through a blog, writing blogs right now, if that's more what you love to do, writing to people individually, or making a video and sending it out to people you know, creating an audio, right? Creating an audio that people can listen to. I'm a big fan of those because personally, I like to listen to things as I do stuff. So it's like I can listen to an audio while I'm doing the dishes. I don't have to keep looking at people. So all of those things, John, are options for you to create and then use as you connect. Amber, do you have anything else?
The only thing that I thought of in addition to is, are there any, because certain things translate over Zoom that we were doing out in the world prior. So if you were part of a book club, or if you're part of a CrossFit group, or if you're part of if there were communities that you were a part of, that either you could be like, hey, we haven't seen each other in 6 months, or not 6 months, 6 weeks. How about we come together for, an hour and just do it could be more social at the start, but it's a way of reconnecting and getting back into their world. So then you could invite maybe further if there seemed like someone could benefit from that. I know that's the only other idea that I thought of, because I know that some groups are still meeting regularly.
Right. That's great. Is that helpful, John?
Yeah. I think, I've got some Zoom groups and some things, just the social groups and the reconnecting. I kind of just wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving anything out on like the new connecting, because I'm like, I really can't think of a way to randomly go out when there's no one out in the world.
Right. Right.
And I'm
No,
fine with that. So
The other thing that just comes to mind is if you're talking to someone that you're already connected to, and maybe they're sharing about their spouse or their employee or their team member, right, that's really struggling, and you have a rapport with the person that's telling you this, you could say, look, during this time, I'm really opening my calendar. And if they would want to talk to me, I'm willing to do that. But then it might require, like, you'd have to tell that person, like, you need to go ask them. And if that's the case, then you can connect us. But that might be another way of offering more of that.
the other thing, because Amber, you're making me think of other ideas. I know people right now who are part of communities, whether it's like networking communities or book clubs. Some of them are like offering like, hey, I'm willing to do a talk, a virtual talk on XYZ, right? And if it would be helpful, I can do that for our group. And it's just a service. Like, you're not going to be like, and at the end, if you want to talk to me, it's like, it's a way to show who you are in addition to whatever you're doing in that group. Because someone could watch your talk and be like, hey, I know someone actually who'd really benefit from a conversation with you. So don't discount the groups you're in, whether it's a book club or other kinds of things. Don't discount those as like, oh, well, I can't come out of the closet professionally with them, right? That's a choice to stay dark to those people. All right, let's go to.
yeah, perfect. Thanks.
You got it. Thanks, John. Let's go to Natasha and then Julie.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey there.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I've heard so much. Sasha is my coach, so I've heard a ton about both of you. I know, what a powerhouse. I'm a fairly new coach. I started working with Sasha in October. So I've been actively coaching people and getting into conversations. And I hosted my first, I did a free workshop in March around some things that I care about and wanted to serve people around. What I'm finding is, and I just signed on for a year and I have some like really big, exciting, actively self-support and some of what you're talking about coming out of the closet as a coach is really a helpful reminder for me. But my question is more, I have not been paid as a coach yet. And I've had a lot of proposals. I've done a lot of enrollment. And initially it was like a fun game for me to like learn the enrollment process. But with the convergence of this like major pandemic and not being paid, it's like created a little vacuum in my mind where I'm like, it's like a little ceiling where I have this belief, and it's subtle, but it's there. I see it in my conversations where I have like 3 conversations of my time with someone. It's great. I'm being of service to them. I'm getting like great feedback from them. And then I think my fear or belief around like, I will never get paid to do this is like, it just like all of a sudden just hits in my my proposal where I'm like, here it is. No worries if you can't pay it, like no worries if it's too much money or if it's like, too much of an ask. I know it's like really, all of my, insecurity gets wrapped up in that like one little moment. And I know they can feel it because I can feel it. Despite being able to serve them really well and them coming back and doing work. And so I just, it's that thing where I am aware of it and I haven't yet. I was talking with Sasha in my report. I said, like, I understand that once I start making money from this, it'll immediately go away. Like that will be part of it. It's like once you get over that little hump, like it feels as though the belief was never there where you're like, of course I can make money from this. Of course I'm doing this. Of course people want to pay. But right now I'm just faking it a lot, and it feels, so I wanted to hear if you had anything to share of your experience on that. I would love to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, like just if you can relate to this experience as a coach, just wave so Natasha can see that she's not alone. So do you see lots of people waving? I do.
Yeah, I put it on gallery view. Even better. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because it's important, because this is kind of a developmental milestone for every
Right.
coach, pandemic or no pandemic. And just so you know, I don't think it would be any different, Natasha, if there were not a pandemic going on. The pandemic is not the thing. It's how you're relating to the tactical steps in a conversation. And what I want to say to you is this, that totally natural, right? And I want to offer you some very high level coaching. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, I'm ready.
It's big.
Great.
And this is it.
Yeah.
You got to zip it.
Yeah.
When you make a proposal, there cannot be, and if you can't, if it's not, it's really radical. Zip it. No more speaking after you say, and the way people work with me is no justifying, no like apologizing in strange ways for sharing how people work with you. You got to zip it.
Yeah.
And it's a real practice. I mean, I say that like jokingly, but I'm not. Like, we business people, first of all, you're not asking anyone for money. Like, we all have to let go of that. Anyone who's a newer coach, it's kind of this thing. I'm asking. I'm like, no, you're actually not. You're offering a service. We don't ask people for money. It's like, this is a service, here are the fees.
Yep.
Whether they choose to do it, that's different, but I'm not asking someone. I mean, I may, when I'm talking to someone, like, hey, is this something you want to do? But I'm not like, oh, please give me money. That's more like what people do. That's a different thing. And that's not what coaches are. So I want to invite you, Natasha, into like, oh, my practice going forward is not apologizing in any way, not justifying, not trying to ease, oh, I want to make it feel better for them. Mm-hmm. Silence is very important.
Yeah. So can I ask a really quick follow-up to that?
Yeah.
Because you made me realize, thank you. And it is something that I have a hard time, especially on Zoom, where we're just like,
you're like, now what?
yeah. So what I'm finding that I'm actively coaching by like the third conversation. We're actively like, they're doing tasks, we're following up. There's a structure there that they're already being coached by me. And so how do you, what do I want to say about this? I'm having a hard time taking. So do you want to hear how this works? Like, is that just is that just the language that works best?
I mean,
like,
so there's a lot of different things you can do, Natasha. First of all, you never have to propose.
Yeah.
Like, you could be like, okay, so this is our third conversation and this will be our last conversation unless you and I decide we want to work together formally.
Okay.
I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of like putting some boundaries. So this will be our last conversation unless we decide we want to work together formally, and we may not. I always want there to be like, and we may not decide. And I want them to know this is going to be our last conversation. We don't want to keep having conversations over and over, right? We want to be like, so listen, this is our third conversation. Let's really make it as useful to you as possible, because this will be our last conversation unless we decide we're going to work together formally. Now, if you started the conversation like that, Natasha, then it's really clear, right?
Yeah.
Then at the end, I might be like, so do you have any questions for me? And they go, no, this was amazing. And I go, great, we're done. I love being done. Do you feel done? I feel totally done. Awesome. And you click end meeting.
Right.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Because most adults, most grown-ups know, like if someone says to me, this is the last conversation unless we decide we want to work together formally, and then I get to the end and they say to me, so do you have any questions? I know what I'm asking. And they go, no. Now, someone may just be polite and be like, oh, well, tell me how you work. Just know, Natasha, and this is for all new coaches or newer coaches, when someone says that, do not get giddy with excitement. Like, oh, they're asking. That must mean. Don't. they're being polite, which is fine because that they're in social self. We're not. And we can be like, oh, I'm happy to share that. And I'll be like, so here's how clients work with me. They work with me for 3 months. The fee is X. And then they go, oh. And I go, so is that something you'd want to do? See, like, we want to be willing. Is that something you'd like to do? Like, it's a simple question. They may be like, well, I need to go think about it. And I'd be like, great, go think about it. You take as much time as you want. If something you want to do, you know where to reach me. I want it. Remember, I'm clean over here. I'm not urgent, desperate, needy. I'm like, great, take as much time as you need.
Yeah.
If you have and then I want to hit end meeting. Do
Gotcha.
not do what I like to lovingly call word vomit. Let's not word vomit our nervousness onto people. Not that you would do that, Natasha, and no one here, but for
I never have, and I never will. No.
Is that helpful?
Yes, it's super helpful. Yeah.
And I have one other thing for coaches on the call who haven't been paid yet.
Mm-hmm.
This is an idea. So, and I've seen people use this successfully. They let 2 people know, I am taking on 2 pro bono clients and I'm willing to do that with you. And it would be for 3 months. And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking on 2 clients. There will be no fee. This is what I'm offering.
Mm.
And they do it for 3 months and they go, and they'll, why are you doing it? Well, I'm growing my practice and it's great for me to get practice. So I want to do that. And I want to do it with someone who I think will really dig in. And we would just need to know, like, there are clear agreements. It's going to be 3 months. I want to know you're going to show up for every session. And I have seen people do that successfully. And at the end of the 3 months, people are like, well, I want to pay you now. I want another 3 months and I want to pay you.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah.
That's just
super
an
helpful.
idea for you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great idea.
Especially right now. Right? That could be a great thing for a coach to do right now in the pandemic, right? It's like, could be like, okay, great.
Cool.
Helpful?
Very. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, let's go to Julie Ireland.
And just so you know, Isabel is saying she's raising her hand in the chat.
Okay.
In the chat, just so you know.
Oh, okay, not on the list?
Wait.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, nice to see you.
Oh, nice to see you. I'm so happy to be here. This is like a little healing balm. And I want to acknowledge myself because like 11:28 today, I was like, I don't have time for this. And I was like, you sit down in that chair, girl.
That's right.
I'm so grateful. So I have 2 questions. One is like a personal coaching question for me, and the other is a client coaching question, if that's okay.
Yep.
You have a preference? Yep.
Do whatever you want. We'll take both.
So one of the things I'm really aware of, like the themes that show up in enrollment conversations and client conversations, a little, I call it like non-USM speak. There's a lot of like doom and gloom, and
yeah.
I mean, I literally had a client, I had a wonderful engagement with him the past 6 months, and he literally sent me an email the other day that said, I just flushed all this money down the toilet. Like he's like in that level of vulnerability and panic. And so, you know, I can hold all of that, right? But at the same time, like sometimes I'm not sure what the icebreaker, so to speak, is, or what's the window into like, like that's the story. Or maybe that is that maybe a story when they're like sort of digging their heels in a little bit. Does that make sense? Like,
so I want to make sure I'm hearing you, Julie. So this is a client you already have?
Well, it's happening both. It's happening in clients I already have, where like we're kind of starting with like, we're starting the sessions with like this kind of baseline of like, oh my God, the world is collapsing. The economy is collapsing.
Right.
And somewhat in enrollment conversations also. So I'm just curious, like what you have, or you and Amber, you know, everyone here, like what's kind of a nice way to just like, when they're kind of digging in a little bit on that, at the same time, that conversation is not going to go anywhere. And I sort of have also different context based on MSIA and USM and all of that.
Right.
And I'm also not going to like vomit that on them either.
No, I totally get that. So I'll clarify. I'm going to put some context, Julie, for everybody else. So Julie is a University of Santa Monica graduate. So that gives her a different kind of context because it's a it's a spiritual psychology program. So I'm a graduate, Amber's a graduate, Amy Ruby's a graduate. And that, in terms of how we might be walking through the pandemic and how we look at it for ourselves, may be wildly different than how people who don't have context might be looking at it. And Julie, I acknowledge you, right? You're like, you don't want to inflict on them.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make it like, oh, it's not real what's happening, right? Like,
Right.
there's truth to people are losing money.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would want to do with someone like that, and again, it depends. With a client, I might be more directive, like, and with a prospective client, I might just really be in like, I want to, like, again, it's no different. We want to hear people, right? And you do that beautifully. It's like, I want to be like, I really hear you.
Yep.
And I want to say, so listen, you know, in the work I do, context is everything. Context is everything. And do you have, like, a question I might ask someone is, do you have a context for how you live your life? And most people are like, what are you talking about? Context. They're like, they've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
And then I start to talk about, well, it's like some people have a context for life of life sucks, then you die. Like, that's the theme that they walk through life with, which in the pandemic is like, it really feeds that context, right?
Yeah.
Because either it's going to be really sucky during the pandemic or I'm going to die.
Yep.
One or the other.
Yep.
And then I start to say, you know, and when we grow up in our houses, we have contexts, right? Like in my house, the context was like, who can complain more? The complainer wins. So I grew up in a context of life is hard and there's a lot to complain about.
Yeah.
So I start to talk about that, Julie, so that, and then I might say, so are you open to us talking about what your context is?
That's great.
Is that something that might be useful right now?
Well, I like that. It's like, are you open to just like naming what's really happening here, which is like not about what you think we're about to discuss, but what's on your mind.
Well, also, see, we want to open up the conversation to most people in the world think their thoughts are real.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, this isn't a thought. This is real. And I want to start to open up the conversation of, are you open to the possibility that that's just a thought? And I want to be super gentle, right? If someone because someone might really push back on that. So I want to be like, look, this is, you could, even if we played a game right now called, is there a different context you want to live into? You have full permission. Go back to the context you're in as soon as we're done talking. Or you can say, hey, Julie, I think your context idea sucks. Like, give them room.
Yeah. And if they're not budging, they're not budging, right?
But I want to reflect that to someone. If someone doesn't budge, I want to say, so listen, I'm totally fine, but are you open to me sharing something I'm seeing? And they go, yeah. I go, I'm experiencing you as,
I like that. Yeah. This is my,
and I want to say,
no.
I'm experiencing you as not willing to even consider an alternative thought.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And as a professional coach, I just want to offer that to you.
That's great. I love it. Nice.
So I want to offer, I'm not trying to inflict. And with a prospective client, if someone is really pushing back, Julie, I'll be like, so tell me what would be useful to you. Like, what would make this call useful? Because someone might want something so small. Yeah. They might be like, I don't know, but this is really hard. And then I'm just going to listen. I'm like, it's hard. It's really hard right now.
Yeah, it's different when I know someone already, for sure.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And we don't want to be, and you're not like this. We're not unicorn and rainbow coaches, right? We're not like, and we can make anything amazing. It's like, I don't want to be like that with people right now. It's like, I want to be like, so if there was a 5% difference you could have as you walk through the pandemic, what would you want it to be?
Yeah.
Like, I want to just see, can I move the needle a bit when someone's really in it?
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
It's really helpful. It's yeah, thank you. That's great.
What was your other question?
So I in terms of my like health as a healer, my own coaching self-practice, like one of the things that I'm aware of is like my own central nervous system, which I have lots of tools, right, to take care of. And one of the things that I'm aware of is I'm going to say this, I'm going to be embarrassed to say, I'm going to say it how it feels, which is like an assault of like self-improvement opportunities. And I love it. And everyone's amazing. I mean, everyone is absolutely amazing. And at the same time, like I'm oriented to learning, right? And I, you know, I'm here, like, this is the middle of my workday. Like, I'm like, this is directly related to my business. Like,
Right.
It was great.
It's important,
But,
right?
yeah. But also kind of, I'm feeling like this kind of, I feel like this pressure, right? To like, we'll be learning all these other things. And like, then how do I pick and choose what to say yes to? And then like, all of a sudden I'm like, I just want to like shut it all down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss an opportunity either. So I'm just curious. Yeah.
All right. Can I offer you something? Can I offer you something?
Oh, I think we've established that's fine.
So it's like Julie, like I think it's great. Like I'm like, screw those other screw the options. Like nobody, like you know, and I wouldn't say that to everybody. Okay. So like Julie and I have a relationship. There's context for what I'm saying to her called she's done a lot of personal growth work. She knows what she's called to step into and what she's not. Like you get to be like, I don't like, I'm being very choosy, Julie. Like there's one or two things I'm doing and they're just because they speak to me. And that's the only.
But how do you get to that place where it's like, that's the thing. Like I'm finding that like my access to like the yes or no switch, like it was easy for this. I was like, this is Carolyn, God damn it. Like,
yay,
get your act together. And, you know, it's because of our history and all that. But I'm finding like, the yes or no, it feels so great. And I'm not used to that. Like, so.
I hear you. You know,
Please don't tell me to do freeform writing.
I won't. I promise. I just say to you, Julie, like, look, here's the other thing right now. You can say yes to stuff and then not show up.
Yeah, but that sounds like a crappily managed agreement.
A what?
Like a very like not a well managed agreement.
And do you have permission to get messy in a pandemic? I mean, do we have permission to be like, yeah, I didn't do that one so well. You know, yeah, I thought I wanted to do that. And when I turned it on and I looked at it, I was like, I did that. I went and participated in a webinar and it was a series of 3 of them. I did the first one and I kind of paid attention to it. And then I was like, this doesn't speak to me anymore. And I didn't do the others. And I didn't feel like I was like, you know, I was really clear inside of me. I participated to the level I was willing to. And then I said, goodbye. Yeah. So you have permission to be messy right now, Julie. If you haven't given that to yourself, I'm going to give it to you.
Oh, no. I have that. I have all kinds of permission around that right now. Mostly, but
not in this, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think I might give myself permission to just say no. And then like, trust my intuition will like pull me forward. Like when I'm brushing my teeth some night, if it's like, no, you got to do it. Absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. Like play with no. No is a complete sentence. No, no to that webinar, no to this webinar, no to that. No, it's amazing. It feels so good.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
You too. Thanks so much.
All right, let's take.
Can I offer something on the first part of that, Carolyn? Are you good with that?
Yeah, and then we'll take Isabel after that.
So one other, when you were talking about someone who sort of digs their heels in, how do you, sometimes what I'll do too, Julie, it depends on the person, but I might be like, how is that working for you? Or how does that make you feel? Or, right, I want them to be like, well, it sucks. Or, you know, whatever it is, if they don't like it, I want them to feel what it feels like to not like it. And then I might say, well, how would you want to feel? What would you want to be different? So now they're starting to dream into a different possibility. And then I might say, are you open to a conversation that may help you experience that? And I want to be clear with you, it may be radical.
Yep.
Are you open to that? Because sometimes that's another way in.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
And as Isabel is coming on screen, I'm going to share, you reminded me, Amber, of a great Michelle story where she was meeting with someone and they were, and this is perfect, by the way, because the person was just in massive like disturbance about their lives. This was not in a pandemic, obviously. And she was like, and this and that and this person went on for a long time. And then she finally stopped talking and Michelle went up to her whiteboard and in big letters wrote the word victim and sat back down. Now that's bold, right? Victim. And she sat back down. And then the person was like, and Michelle was like, yeah.
I want to add to that story. The person was very much an upset. And so, but Michelle had been coaching long enough to really be able to withstand that. And, you know, they worked at that. The person did not hire Michelle.
Nope.
But a year later, Michelle found out that that person got divorced and started writing again. And all of that was a catalyst from that conversation where Michelle really highlighted, this is what you're doing.
See, if we're willing to die before battle, before we go into a conversation, I'm going to be willing, trusting my own instincts to share what's true for me and really be like, and I may never see the person again. That's my commitment, just so you know. When I walk into a conversation, I'm like, this conversation may be my last, and I'm going to share everything I see, the truth that I see, because I may never see that person again. And I've said that to people sometimes in the beginning, like, I want you to know, this may be the only conversation we ever have, so I'm going to share everything I see, and it may not be accurate for you. And do I have permission to do that? I say that to them. I want them to know, oh, wow, this person's going to like, I want them to be like, okay. All right, Isabel.
Hi, nice to meet everyone.
Hi there.
I don't have a super clear question, though I do know what I want to bring into the circle. This is partly my exercise of testing out my voice. I'm noticing a real, I love that we're talking about context. For myself, I notice a recurring pain and shame around a self-pressure to perform and always do more and hit the ways of running my business or the business. And I'm curious, about, on the one hand, it seems like there's a cadence to this and there's a timing to this for me of I'm putting one foot in front of the other and it brings the things up, and then that's an opportunity to hold that gently and work through it in the way that is appropriate for me. And I think, again, speaking of context, I think I have a tendency of going, oh, Isabel, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, when I'm like honing in on the high leverage steps and taking them at a pace that I can digest, that is constructive and healing. So I guess I'm just called to kind of throw that into the campfire here. And
so Isabel, do I have permission to offer you something based on what you shared?
Yeah.
I mean, look, you get to decide your cadence and you get to look at the evidence. If the evidence is my business is working the way I want it to, and I'm satisfied, then you can perhaps lower the bar on the cracking of the whip. Right? If there's like an internal sense of pressure, it's like, see, we all as business owners at the end of the day, it's like what I like to say to coaches is you get to decide how you want to run your business. If you're not making the kind of money you want to make, then there's something to look at. If you're okay with how you're doing, then great. Like if it works for you, I completely respect that. So for you, Isabel, it's like if you're okay with like, hey, I'm showing up, I'm taking baby steps, I'm doing my work, and I'm dealing with whatever comes up as I do that, right? I do want to say for everyone, like for people who are more internally referenced, like they're really aware of, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. Oh my God, I don't like doing this. I want to offer to people that we can be taking action while still handling our internal stuff. Like action does not need to stop while we handle anything that's going on inside. Like that's an error in approach from my point of view for professional coaches. Professional coaches are so incredibly steeped in their own like internal growth, which I love, and we can often use that as a way to not take action. Like, oh, I need to go like work my process and I need to go handle this. And I'm like, you can still be taking action and doing that. My friend and colleague, Stephen McGee, who also teaches at the school, he likes to say it like this to coaches: limit the downtime. Like, I don't want to get taken out of my business for a week while I go handle my own disturbance. I want to be able to handle my disturbance and be in my business in the way I want to be in it. And Isabel, you get to decide, right? That you don't have to feel pressured. Like that's if you take that on, you can work with that and be like, we want to look at our results. Are we okay with the results we're getting? That's what we want to look at as business owners. And for me, my results are what's in my bank account and do I have clients? And if I want a new client, then I want to get more into action. If I'm okay with where I'm at, I don't. And I love that. I love the simplicity of that. Right? It's like, if you're good with it, I mean, I always tell people, this is what's great about the way that we work with coaches. You're learning how to turn up the flame and turn it down. And I get to decide when I want to turn it up and when I want to turn it down. But there's no like, it's not a mystery. If I go to my bank account and I'm like, oh man, there's nothing in there. And I go to my calendar and I'm like, oh, I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in 2 weeks. I have evidence. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it actually just segues so perfectly into kind of the other pillar that I wanted to bring in of this sense sometimes of, oh, I'm feeling kind of a lull. I don't know, I don't feel it as far as, that the kind of the self-doubts that can come in of, I'm not feeling shiny enough to offer a workshop.
Can I respond to that one? I love that one. Because I think I can handle that one quickly. The less shiny, the better. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm shiny enough. See, if we all wait till we're shiny enough, none of us will do anything. I'd be waiting a long time if I waited till I was shiny enough. Amber, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, because one of the things that I loved, right? So remember, when I started my business, I went from the online world into more of this work. And in the online realm, it shifted now, but this was back in 2011. There was a lot of like, there was a lot of superficiality is how I would say it, right? A lot of like, I must look a certain way and I must have a certain presence, very manufactured. Maybe that's another way to say it, not as vulnerable as some of it is now. And one of what I realized in working with Carolyn and Michelle, this is a compliment, even though it's going to sound like it's not. They were so willing to be human, right? They made their mistake, like they shared their mistakes. And that allowed me to embrace my mistakes more. Like over here, I was trying to be perfect all the time. And that is painful because it's not possible. So being over here with another human who was like, hey, I'm just like you. I have more experience. I'm further along, but can we, Amber, can you just embrace the fact that you're going to make mistakes along the way too? And it was so refreshing for me. So I just share that to you for your consideration, Isabel.
Shiny is really overrated.
And who's to say that your humanness isn't already shiny?
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I mean, we're all shiny, but the idea of what shiny should look like, that's really what we're talking about. And I offer that the more we can be in our own, like, hey, like, I love this phrase, perfection is the enemy of good enough. Perfection is the enemy of good enough. And when I look back on my professional life, I really do. I have such appreciation that Michelle and I, our materials were not shiny. They were not. We didn't have a fancy logo. We just were like, the content is what matters. And look, I came from a marketing background. And if you look at Steve Chandler, that's a guy who doesn't care about shiny. You should see how he shows up for a webinar. He's like, he's not about shiny. And he's, the godfather of coaching. So he's got something to offer. So Isabel, thank you for that question. I want to go to, I see Mary Sbist and then Carrie out.
Shebist, that's a tough one.
Right?
Nobody ever gets that one right. Shebist. Just think he, Shebist.
Shebist,
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for offering this. And Marguerite's a dear friend of mine, so she's spoken very highly of you. And I didn't think I had anything that I wanted to bring up, but as things were happening, I really could feel this fear of putting myself out there. And as I was like feeling that, I was thinking about all the ways that I've kind of set myself up to do that. Like I started my own business, but then I moved into working for other companies, and I'm like noticing that I'm moving further away. And I'm feeling like probably in the last 6 months, I've been really kind of preparing myself to get ready for that. So I just wonder if you could speak to kind of the fear and how to kind of move yourself above that, because I know that I have some powerful things to offer, and I've had these amazing transformations with clients in a very short period of time, and like just wonder what you have to offer me around that.
So Mary, can I ask some clarifying questions?
Absolutely.
So you're a professional coach, you already have some clients.
Yes.
And the fear is about putting yourself out there more? Like what's
More.
like, okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
like, I know, like I haven't done any blog. I have done nothing that like really puts me out there to more of the masses.
All right. So let me share. There's no requirement to ever put yourself out to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know people who've grown their coaching business one person at a time in a super simple way. So one thing for you to consider is like, what does that even mean to you in terms of putting yourself out to the masses? Like, what does that mean?
For me, it's like I've thought of so many different things I could write about or things that I could share with people that would be of value and of service to them. But I can never get past that. Like,
do you want to write? So do you like writing?
I enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because you don't have to. I just want, like, you could do it. You don't have to do anything. Like I know people who never write, they never do videos, they're never on social media, and they've grown a really great business. Now, if you want to write, right? If you're like, ooh, I do though. Like I want to support you in that. And you ready? It's like super radical. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Do it afraid.
Say that again.
Do it afraid. like this is, it's like, just do it afraid. I mean, like it's just so, because fear is sort of, it's like, it kind of is a little like, let's call it like a little, I want to be gender neutral. It's not a boogeyman. It's like a boogie person. And it wants to like seduce us into like hanging out. It wants us to think it's really interesting. And like, I think I shared this on our last call, fear, the acronym, false evidence appearing real. So When I say do it afraid, Mary, are you like, oh, that's not the answer I want? Does Amber have anything better?
No, I'm hearing that, and I think it's twofold in that, it's not only the writing piece but also how I have this coaching business and I pretty much abandon it to work for other companies.
Okay. All right.
So I'm working for Better Up and I'm coaching and I'm feeling like I did that because I was afraid.
And is that work coaching work?
That is coaching work.
So you're coaching within organizations?
Yes, it's more like consulting with they hire me as a consultant and I coach with them. So I'm doing tons of coaching.
Which is great. But you're sort of like, but I'm sort of like not, I'm doing the work that way and I want to be more willing to create my own clients. I don't want to be utilizing other companies to get my work.
That's right.
Hey, I love that. I mean, Mary, to me, that's like fabulous news. I'm like, how exciting is that you're like, I don't know that's like, and I know people who gladly will coach for other companies and they have no interest in creating their own clients, right? They're like, hey, I love this. But I applaud you that you're like, no, I don't know if I feel like that's me holding back.
Yeah, and that's the key there. I feel like I could be doing workshops. I can be out moving and shaking things more.
Good. So here's the question. If you were going to step into that 5% more, just 5%, what would be one thing you would do?
Actually, the first thing that comes to mind is doing that, offering to clients 3 months of my service, like you suggested earlier. And just, I think I've done that in the past, but I was working with clients that would never finish and would never share with other people. And it just, like, I learned a lesson through that. And that was me keeping myself small. So I think maybe focusing on who I really want to work with and who I can really see would also invest in what I'm offering.
And when you say that, do you mean that idea I offered of like complimentary coaching, like a small package pro bono? So one thing, if you want to do that, is you want to make it like, I've chosen you and I'm willing to do a very special program for you. I'm only going to do it for 2 people. And it's going to be for 3 months. And if that's something you want to do, we're going to talk about what that's going to look like. It's going to be like a really clear agreement. Like you want to really set up a tight container there, Mary.
Yeah, and I heard that when you said that earlier. I was like, that's what I did not do. And
Right. It's going to be 6 sessions every other week. And I'm going to give you an assignment to start. And our agreement is you show up for your sessions. There's never a reason you're not going to show up other than you're in the hospital with something like COVID-19 or some other situation. And, and you really set it up in a really tight way. And I think that's a fun experiment to run. And I'm also curious because you said like writing, it's like, would 5% be like, maybe I'll write something and I'll send it to some people.
Yep. I can commit to that. I'm going to commit to both of those.
Love it. And I just want to say to you, Mary, like, it's okay. Like, you might have a lot of feelings come up in this process. Like, this feels weird and I don't like it and I'm nervous. And I just want to invite you to like, you can partner with that part, but you can say to that part, and we're going to proceed. Like, don't get too fascinated with that part. Don't be like, oh, tell me more. Like, oh, please let me get into pajamas and under the covers and tell me all about it. And then your whole day goes by.
Right.
You can go, yeah, I know. I totally get you're afraid. Let's go. Like, it's like if you had a kid and they're like digging their heels in. It's like, well, I know you don't want to go to the dentist and we're still going to go.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. Love it.
Thanks.
You got it.
Carolyn,
All right.
we have a couple questions in the chat. Do you want to take those or do you want to?
I'm going to go to Carrie, but I'm going to answer. I saw Alfredo's question and then we'll go to Annie's. Okay.
Yeah.
Carrie,
Carolyn!
how's it going?
It's going great. It's really great to be speaking with you and to see, everybody on your I've been participating in these and loving it, so I have a bit of a situation that, I took on a new client. It was like at the end of last year. I took on a client. There was a referral, somebody who was going through a loss and was really stuck and paralyzed. And in talking to this person, he was not making any money at the time, although he's a potential high earner, that kind of thing. But he was so shut down in his life. And I decided that I would take him on as a client for a reduced fee. And I did that sort of full of willingness because I knew him and I liked him and I thought I could really help him. And so we're getting close to the end of the agreement. And I was in a session with him this week and he was like, and I've decided I'm going to continue with you even though I've got the fear of money. And it's like, inside of me, I paid attention. I went, uh-oh, I don't want to continue with him at that reduced fee. So it was just an indication to me that I probably hadn't set up the agreement very well in the beginning to just say, hey, I'm willing to do this for this period of time, but this is, he knows what my regular rate is.
He does.
Yeah, he knows it. He knows that I did this at a substantial, reduction in fee. So I had two ways of thinking about three options basically. I could say, great, we'll continue, and that doesn't feel right to me.
Okay.
It doesn't feel honoring of, my normal pricing. The other thing was that I could say, it's great you want to continue, and the price that we did it for was for that one initial, because he moved really quickly. He got he got unstuck, and he's going great with a business that he's doing now. He's got money, but it's not like real flush. And I could just say, well, that was then, if we want to continue, my rate is X. So let's talk about that. That's one way I could do it. And then I had this thought, and I wanted to get your thought on this. If I were to tell this guy, we did this, you've got some great results from it, you know that my normal rate is, we did it for X, my normal rate is Y. What's a number that you propose between X and Y? It's like, I've heard of people doing that approach of pay what you think the value is. I want to get your thoughts on it.
I'm not a
never done
fan.
that before.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it, right? So I want to be really clear for everyone. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm not a fan because I don't know that I know what happens when people coach with me. I know what can occur inside this container.
Yeah.
And I'm not that interested in what they think the value is, right? I just don't want to do that. That to me, it's like, let's think about this from a professional standpoint. Yeah. Surgeons don't go, hey, what do you think? Brain surgery. Between this and this, what do you value it?
Yeah.
I don't want that, we would never do that, right? If a brain surgeon said that to me, if I needed brain surgery, I'd be like, I need to find a different brain surgeon because this feels really weird.
Yeah.
And, if Michelle were here, she'd be like, yeah, and coaching is way more valuable than brain surgery. Brain surgery is just brain surgery. This is your whole life. Brain surgeon's just going to help you with your brain.
Yeah.
So Carrie, I'm not a fan of that. I'm more of a fan of you taking a strong stand for your business and you being like, hey, listen, I was willing to do it at this fee and we made that agreement and I'm not willing to do that. If we're going to proceed, we're going to do it at my standard rate.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't even want to because you had another sentence in there. You were like, and let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to be like, here's the option.
Yeah.
I'm willing to continue coaching you and it would be at my standard rate.
Yeah.
And it's fine to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't done this before. So it's just like, how do I dig myself out of this hole?
And it's not a hole. I really want to be clear. You did not create a hole. You're just going to be transparent.
Yeah.
You're just going to say, so here's the deal. I'm more than willing to keep working with you. And our agreement was based on a reduced fee that I was willing to do.
Yeah.
And now that we're further along, I'm not willing to do it at a reduced fee. It's not a whole, it's just like, I'm going to be clear about what I'm willing to do as a business person.
Yeah.
And you get to decide.
And looking back, you know, it was my decision to do that. But now seeing, you know, what comes down, because I thought, well, this will be 6 months and it'll be done, you know. Well, now that
Clearly he's gotten so much value. See, that's why I don't want him picking the value.
Right. Okay.
I'm like, you saw, look how quickly he moved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, coaches who want to do that, like that's up to them. But I think honestly, it diminishes the profession.
Yeah. I'd heard of other coaches doing that too, just like from the get-go. Well, what do you think it's worth? And I always thought, oh, that's weird, you know, but it occurred to me in this situation as, well, maybe it might be a way for him to speak to the value that he's got. But maybe I just make that as, in a way, an assumption because he's wanting to continue.
I think it's already been made.
Yeah.
See, I don't need someone to tell me the value.
Yeah.
Because it's evident in their life.
Yeah.
Now, what you might want to do, Carrie, is say, look, I'm willing to coach you again. And we need to clarify, I did it at a reduced fee. I wouldn't be willing to do that again. And you and I need to slow down and go, hey, the bar is going to get higher for you now. Because we handled a lot.
Yeah.
So if you and I are going to do another round, the bar is going to go up, called what's next for you. And I want to slow down and talk about that. Go into the possibility.
Yeah.
Don't stay on the fee.
Yeah. And it's interesting because having had that experience, I've got an enrollment conversation tomorrow and I'm like second guessing myself of, well, am I a X figure coach or Y figure coach? What am I going to do in this enrollment conversation?
Oh, do you mean in terms of your fees?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, did I set myself back somehow by accepting this fee? And
Nope.
I didn't feel like it at the time. I just felt like I really want to help this guy. This is I'm willing to do it.
Absolutely. And any of us get to do that. That doesn't, like, if I decide to offer my coaching at a lower fee, that does not mean anything other than I decided to offer that person my coaching at a lower fee. And it doesn't change who I am as a coach. It doesn't change my fees. It's called, I do what works for me.
Yeah.
So I support you, Carrie, and I think it's great. Helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Good.
I want to clarify one thing on that, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Just for everyone listening, Carrie's not doing that with every conversation she's having, right? So if like Carrie's an established coach, she knows how to do enrollment, she knows how to work with clients. So there's not like I'm trying to get money here and I'm trying to get this going and I'm going to offer discounts to everyone who comes along. Because there can be real value in first standing in your fee and for your fee before you start being like, I'm willing to offer you this.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys.
I want to answer Alfredo's question, and then I want to take Annie's question, and I have a clarifying question. So Alfredo, I'm going to speak to this because I think this would help a lot of people. His question is, I've been coaching for a year and I've been paid for my services, but I feel insecure in regards to raising my fee. Do you have any advice for me? And my answer is, don't raise your fee. You don't need to until you're ready to. So it's like every coach gets to determine their fee. And I think it's a really important process for coaches to walk through that, right? Like, I don't want to tell a coach, well, you know, it's very rare that I will say to a coach, you need to raise your fee. See, you want to walk through the process of going, wow, the people I've been coaching have been getting, like, look at the changes in their life and look at what's happening. And then naturally I go, oh, it's time. It's time for me to raise my fee. I see what's happening in the work I'm doing. And then we get to take it up. So there's no requirement to ever raise our fee. And if you're feeling insecure, stay where you are and then go, okay, I'm going to revisit this after the next client and see if I'm going to be like, and you can run an experiment and be like, well, I'm going to raise my fee in this next conversation and I'm going to see what happens. So there's lots of options, but there's never a requirement to raise our fees. Some coaches raise their fees too fast, and that's not helpful. So my encouragement, Alfredo, is you keep checking inside. All right. So Annie, you asked a question. I was challenged recently that especially in the pandemic, it's important from a business perspective that we speak from the scar, not the wound. Otherwise, would someone hire us? We're committing business suicide. I don't know what that means. So if you're here, Annie, and you want to pop on and tell me what you mean that speak from the scar, not the wound. Unless, Amber, you know what that means. Okay.
You're unmuted, Annie.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you. It's early morning here in New Zealand and I'm actually in bed, so I'm not.
That's cool.
On. So there was this, I'm part of a 5,000 strong group for coaches, and it's based in the UK, and there was a really hot debate recently that was led actually by the owner of the group that, you know, he's seeing way too many bleeding heart kind of, this pandemic's really, really hard from professional coaches, and that basically that's committing business suicide, because why would anyone hire us? Why would someone hire us if we're kind of looking like we're sort of, you know, falling apart, and that sort of thing. So basically that was, and I've got to say, I was really surprised actually, from about the 250 comments on that thread, 95% of them were agreeing, and I wonder if it's because some of them were afraid to not agree or to, you know, to disagree. And I was just like, hell, is there something I'm not seeing? Because I've been quite honest with a couple of posts recently that have been extraordinarily fruitful in their, you know, kind of in the response from people, and I know it's been, I feel it's been really, they've been supportive, and I've been, I guess, quite vulnerable in my experience, but not falling apart at the sides. So it triggered me, and I'm like, holy shit, am I creating business, you know, am I making business suicide?
Okay. So I want to make sure I'm understanding you, Annie. So are you meaning, like, if I'm a professional coach and I make a post on Facebook about how challenging this time is and how hard it is, and I'm kind of in my own stuff about the pandemic?
Yep. In the wound, not the scar. So, right, what, as you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't disagree with the owner. Like, if I'm a professional coach, I'm not saying I don't have my own wounds, right? But I don't want to communicate from those. I don't want to, I'll do that with my friends. I'll do that with my coach. I'll be like, oh man, this is terrible and this is horrible, because I want to get coaching on how to come out of it. But I don't want to just do that publicly in an open way, because I don't know that it's helpful, number one. There's plenty of people doing it on Facebook. I'm not judging them. But if I'm a coach and I'm here to be an essential worker and assist people right now, I don't know how helpful it is for me to be like vomiting my own internal mess into the world.
Yeah. Okay.
And it doesn't mean I don't get to have a mess.
Yeah, no, I get it. Look, and my communications, they weren't vomiting at all. Certainly showing some humanity, but they weren't a vomit. So I do get that. So, you know, I understand. And I think my question's answered. I get it.
Good.
Yeah. That's the distinction, right? It's, if I'm, Brene Brown talks about this really beautifully. If we're raw, if we're in the place where we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that is not the time to be sharing, because we're still in it.
Yeah.
Right? And there may be more to come, but we may have made it through phase one. And it's like, okay, I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel in phase one. I'll share about this, because it's important, right? To share our humanness, because it allows people, again, to embrace their own. But it's that point of, because here, and Brene talks about this too, if we share too soon, inevitably people project. They just do naturally onto whatever we're writing, whatever we're sharing, whatever we're speaking. And if it's too raw, it's like, it almost like reopens the wound. And so that's why we want to be ready to withstand whatever feedback might be coming towards us. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's clear. It's absolutely clear. Yeah, thank you.
Good. So I want to honor our timeline, right? everyone knew it's 11:30 to 1. So I want to acknowledge everyone who participated. I want to say thank you to you. I so appreciate you taking this time. There's 3 questions left. Lisa Husseini and Jonesy, you can email me, right? Email me your question. I want to get your question answered. And then John Ruby, you know where to take your question, my friend. So first of all, bravo to all of you. And I just want to be a voice of encouragement that we are essential workers. You have beautiful water to share and people are thirsty. So have a beautiful day and great to be with you all.
Bye, everybody.